So the internet has been making its rounds since Meg Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson made basically a public appearance affirming that they are in a relationship. And, I don't have really anything negative to say. I'm always happy to see good love. I'm always happy to see black love in all of its forms. I want to just talk about real quickly why Meg the Stallion will literally never be called a colorist. If you look at her dating history, she has dated all manner of men, all races, all skin complexions. And honestly, black women have the freedom to do this. Black women have the freedom to date an Asian man one day, but then date a white woman the other day, but then the next week date a black man. And honestly, still be pro-black and not be called any forms of colorist. Like black women really are not judged, are rarely if ever judged for being called a colorist. But the same is not true for the reverse. And let me tell you, I just posted this comment on X yesterday where I talked about how black men are the least colorist of all men. I mean, if we're going to be honest, the men who are most likely to disqualify a black woman for being too dark are not black. They're not black. Yeah, you're gonna have some black men out there who might be a little bit on some raccooning stuff or self-hating or whatever, or you're just gonna have some black men who just have their own preference, whatever. But by and large, you don't hear black men going out of their way to disqualify a black woman for being too dark. If that was the case, black men would not be the most likely to date and marry black women to date. Black men are 80 times more likely to marry black women than any other race of men. So miss me with all this black men are colorists. Miss me with all this black men don't like black women. Like y'all are delusional if you really believe this. And honestly, the only reason a black woman would want to believe this is so that she can justify her preference for Brad or for white men. But I digress. The point is, she has dated everything under the sun. And honestly, Meg Thee Stallion, I think she's a talented artist. I don't agree with a lot of her messaging. I actually think many of the things that she promotes, says, and does is actually detrimental to the black community. And I do not like the way she has treated the black male image, specifically the video that she did a few months back that I called out Jennifer's Body, where she basically was dancing on the grave of black men. I don't rock with that. But nevertheless, you still gonna have people rocking with her. You still gonna have black men dating her because she's pretty, she's thick, all of the above. What I wanted to do real briefly was just call out the obvious that at the end of the day, in the culture, in the black American culture, black women ultimately have a lot more liberty to date in all manners and all fashions and not be termed a colorist. I have never seen Meg the Stallion called a colorist. I didn't see her called a colorist when she was dating G-Eazy. I don't see her being called a colorist now. Y'all let me know. Maybe I'm missing something, but by and large, I don't see like a public outrage of black men going online being like, you need to be dating dark-skinned men. You need to be this and that. Like black men don't care. But let the roles be reversed. And let there be a successful black man, a successful dark-skinned black man who's with a light bright, with a biracial, or with a non-black woman. And from here till tomorrow, you're going to hear black women complaining about it. It's always a topic of discussion. So that's what I'm saying. It's like we clearly see, and again, I'm just speaking from anecdotal experience, but we just clearly see that that it's not equal here, that the standards are not equal here. And that's my point. But I wanted to look real quickly over this tweet that I posted on black men being the least colorist of all men, because in spite of how black women like to complain about colorism, features, and texturism, to talk about how they're not liked, the reality is ain't nobody out here more eager and willing to deal with black women than black men. That's just the truth. Really, I believe many women who are complaining about colorism are really upset that they weren't picked by white men or the popular high school athlete that had access to all these other groups of women. Like in reality, I honestly feel like colorism is driven by the pain that women feel for not feeling like they are attractive to the men that they want. Put another way, colorism is black women feeling like they aren't pretty enough, feeling like they're not pretty enough for the men that they want. That is at the core of colorism, because what we've talked about before, and shout out to Dr. T. Johnson, I mean, he addressed this in some of his previous videos, where colorism actually impacts black men more statistically and institutionally, right? Colorism for a black woman may be like, she's not getting the date okay, or maybe she's, looked at as othered or whatever. But black men colorism is they're not getting the job. They are going to be get arrested. Getting arrested more. They're racially profiled, right? And again, I'm not saying black women, like, yeah, there are some black women, dark skinned black women, especially if they present as more masculine, they might still, not get the pretty privileged treatment. But just by and large, like, colorism for black women tends to impact their sexual preferences, whereas colorism for black men tends to impact their ability to be safe and their ability to make money and to exist in the society. So they're two completely, like, it's actually a lot more dangerous for black men. But that's besides the point. I just, again, wanted to really debunk this constant myth, and we all know it's a myth, but this constant lie that black men are always going out of his way to only date the lightest, brightest, exotic culture, not with black women, and be like, y'all are crazy. Like, that's just not true. So let's look real briefly at this tweet that I did. This one, okay, it says, I know plenty of black men who dated or married black women darker than them. Black men are the least colors of all men. Like, anybody who wants to debate this, please do so. I'm not talking about your anecdotal or my cousin or the dude that I liked said he only liked light-skinned women or the athlete I'm crushing on. No, I'm talking about generally, culturally. I'm talking about systems of colorism by which black women are excluded from society or darker skinned women are excluded from society. This stuff exists in other cultures. I know Asian people who have told me specifically that they were told by their parents that if they come home with a black person, they are not getting an inheritance. That is a lot different. That's institutional. That is cultural. You're talking mejorando la raza, right? You're talking other cultures that have this ingrained in all aspects of their society, like somewhat of a caste system. That's a lot different than this random Negro who's on some, self-hating stuff on a snow bunny fetish who wants to be with a white woman. Like we're talking about two different things. But anyway, so here it says my dad, all my dad's brothers, like literally. I mean, I can think all I have to do is look at my own family. I have actually one side of my family is incredibly light. They're all like light brights, like talented tint kind of looking folks, right? Like one side of my family. And yeah, I know I have some of my, light-skinned cousins and uncles or whatever who got with unambiguously black or dark-skinned women. So I can just speak anecdotally in my own life and know that's true. My granddaddy was a light-skinned man with light eyes who liked dark women, right? So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, says I prefer dark-skinned women until they open the house. I can't. Now this is crazy and this is real because there are so many black women out there today who would love them a beautiful dark chocolate queen. But just right now, what's going on, the dating market in America right now is really toxic. And then as I mentioned before, just feminism is so rampant. And so it just kind of makes the marriage dynamics and just the dynamics between men and women right now really complicated, which is actually why you have some men who are grabbing their passports, going abroad, getting their preference just from cultures that are naturally more traditionally minded and from cultures of women who are raised to be wives. Okay. So this is funny. It says, preach, beloved. This one says, love my beautiful black queens. I mean, you're going to have black women in here who are just like, absolutely yes. I mean, like the black America wouldn't exist and black men weren't into dark-skinned women. So y'all crazy. Got some stunning black women out there. Absolutely. Especially light skins. Yeah, this is what I heard coming up. I used to hear coming up, like, that, I heard coming up like that was always a trend. You would see these light-skinned men with these dark-skinned women, right? Like that was just kind of like a thing. And like I said, I could look at my own life and see that that's true. Now, I also had some light-skinned men in my family who was really, really into light-skinned women. So like, I'm not going to say that's always the case, but everybody has their preference and like, I'm not tripping over the preference. I'm just out here to debunk the myth that black men are the most colorist. Like y'all are tripping and y'all are delusional if you want to believe that. And ultimately, it really comes down to the fact that you just want to justify being with white men. Be with a white man if you want. Be with a non-black man. If you have a light skin preference, like I don't really care. Let's just be really clear about what we're saying here. And let's not use these ideas to now castigate, undermine, and actually promote lies about people in your own community. That is my only thoughts. But anyways, y'all, that's what I got. What y'all think about this whole thing? Let me know down in the comments section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.